So keep inviting your friends to jump on with us. We have a really special treat for you today, and I'm really, really excited about it. And for you to get to hear from Dr. Erin Glynn and all of her amazingness about women's health. Okay. So, guys, if you're on here, don't jump off. This could be something that maybe you're watching someone you love dearly go through. And Erin and I were just talking before we started this, and I was like, I was sitting with my hairdresser the other day, and she was like, well, it couldn't possibly be perimenopause because she's still in her 30s. And I'm like, oh, but it can. And so just know there are some things out there that you're probably dealing with that you had absolutely no idea were related to the change of life. I know that I was one of those people. I'll just briefly share as we're giving everyone an opportunity to hop on. Um, I was suffering from some severe pain in my right hip. My eyes were so dry, I literally thought I was going blind. I went to the eye doctor and I was like, this has to be old age. Like, I can hardly see anymore. I'm going to need full blown, like, bifocals. He was like, no, your eyes are just dry. You actually have 20/20 vision. I was like, what? What, my eyes are dry? Like, what does that even mean? Right. And so I was dealing with that, plus the night sweats and the hot flashes, which are, just a given. Those were like very real signs, but I didn't know all of the other things I was dealing with was actually related to that too. Like, I had no idea. And so I thought, you know what? We need to bring Dr. Erin Glenn on here and we need to let her just chat with you guys about what are the symptoms? What are some things that you can be looking for? And then what are some solutions? Because that's what we're all after, right? We want the solution. We want it to stop. And so I just want to be able to share with you guys. I was a little bit skeptical. I have to be honest with you that this women's health product was going to actually work for me for a couple of reasons. My symptoms seemed pretty severe, like my hip would hurt really, really bad. And my eyes were super, super, super dry. And so I thought, I mean, is this, I mean, you just think it's not going to work for you. How many of you have ever thought that? Like, well, that's cool for them, but is it really going to work for me? And that's kind of how I felt. And then I started using it. And it wasn't like it took a really long time. Within a short amount of time, my symptoms were not just better, but they were completely gone, completely gone. And so I was just blown away. I was completely blown away that an all natural product was able to help me the way that it did. And I didn't have to do any type of hormone replacement therapy. And so I'm really, really excited for you guys to get to hear from our newest member of our scientific advisory board here at our incredible company. And she has put together an incredible presentation to share with you guys about women's health and what we're dealing with as women and what are some of the solutions and how we can overcome it. How many of you have struggled to sleep well? How many of you are like, I cannot get the scale to move even if I starve myself? Like, that's where I was, right? I started getting my hormones lined out and I dropped 30 pounds. I thought my body was broken. My body wasn't broken. How many of you think your body's broken, right? Or you're dealing with some of the craziest symptoms and they're just coming up out of the blue, and you think, is this just my new life? Is this what life is going to be like now for me? If any of those are you, then just hang out for a little bit. Dr. Erin is going to jump in. She's got a beautiful presentation. And then also, we want to be able to answer some of your questions. So do me a favor, okay? Save your questions for the end, and then we're going to take some questions. Dr. Erin's going to answer them. And so I just want her to be able to get through her presentation first because she very well may answer some of your questions through the presentation. So we'll take some of those at the end. So Dr. Erin, first of all, thank you. Thank you for taking time to jump on here today. I know you're so busy today. Not only is she getting ready to travel, like we were just talking, she's still got to finish packing and get out the door and go to the airport as immediately when this Zoom is over. But she's also just got a busy life in general. And for her to take the time to really jump in here today and share with all of you about the importance of understanding women's health and then what you can do naturally to kind of reverse some of the things that are happening to you is just such a big deal. And so I am really, really excited and super, super honored that she is spending her morning with us. So, Dr. Erin, I'm going to let you take it away. I'm going to be quiet.
Thank you so much, Tina. Can you guys see my screen now? I just shared? Okay, awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I always enjoy hopping on these calls and doing a little education, and I particularly love talking about women's health. So when Tina Joy asked me to join, I was like, yeah, let's do it. So like she said, I basically have just put together a few slides, more so because I personally am a visual learner. So I like to see things when people are talking. And I think when we're talking about women's health and especially hormones, sometimes seeing kind of like images of what your hormones are actually doing can be really helpful to help you understand what's going on. So I joined the scientific advisory board for Trinot back in March. So I have not been with Trinot very long, but in this short time, I did get to attend convention. That was like my third day of working with Trinot. I got to go to your convention in Provo and watch the launch of your 3 new products. So For Her, Clear, and why am I blanking on the third one? Somebody help me out.
Creatine.
Creatine.
Creatine, yeah. So, which is actually my favorite one anyway. So brain fog, right? So I'm going to run through this presentation. Like Tina Joy said, I think it'd be great to do some Q&A at the end if you guys are up for that. So let's get started. All right. Why women's health? This is such an important topic that has been kind of swept under the rug for so long. There just haven't been a ton of attention paid to menopause, basically, right? And what we're really finding as we start to research it is it's not just something that affects women 55, 60 plus. This starts a decade or more before you go through the menopause transition. And it really is affecting women's quality of life. So why do we want to focus on women's health? Well, personally, I think women's health drives a family's health. If you are not healthy as the female of your household, and maybe you don't have kids, but maybe you're caring for somebody, like your health is central to how well you can help and care for other people. And I know not everybody's a caregiver, or not everybody's taking care of others, but a lot of us are. And so it's really important for us to prioritize our own health so we can do the things that we need and want to do for our families. Women have unique physiology. And this has really been underrepresented in scientific studies. So I like the phrase, and I think I said it in one of the lives I was on, women are not small men. You can't take the scientific research that's been done on men and just downsize it and apply it to women, right? So there's a lot of things that we still don't know about our physiology as women, that we don't know as well as men's physiology, but we are starting to understand a lot more as people are paying more attention to this. Hormonal changes. We know that women have much larger fluctuations in hormones, and this doesn't just happen in perimenopause and menopause. Every single month with our monthly cycle, menstruation cycle, our hormones are having major fluctuations, and that causes a lot of those symptoms that we get to complain about, like moodiness and cramping and tenderness in your breasts and all of those things that come around your period time. So these are some of the unique things with regard to women's health that we can focus on as a supplement company to help try to address some of these unique needs. Oh, I did also want to mention the disservice of the Women's Health Initiative. So I don't know how much you guys have heard about the Women's Health Initiative. If you listen to any kind of health influencer podcasts, you've probably heard them talk about the WHI. And basically what this was a study that was conducted by the NIH. It started in the late 90s. It kind of came out in the early 2000s, and they were looking at hormone replacement therapy and risk of cancer and many other outcomes. So I don't want to say what they found, but what was reported widely in the media was that hormone replacement therapy increased the risk of breast cancer in women. And as soon as that was reported, and the way it was reported sounded very scary, so many women and doctors were turned off from hormone replacement therapy. But as I'm going to go through and show you today, I think that's definitely something you should consider. I'm not saying everybody should do it, but if you're having a lot of symptoms, hormone replacement therapy may be an option for you. And I don't think you should take it off the table just because you've heard it might increase your risk of breast cancer. There were a lot of problems with the way that that study was conducted and reported. So this is an image of a typical 28-day female cycle. You have the first 14 days is your follicular phase. The second 14 days is your luteal phase. So looking just at the hormones, I don't think you can see my clicker there. The hormone levels over here on the left, FSH is follicle stimulating hormone, LH luteinizing hormone, and then you have estrogen and progesterone. But just look at how those are changing over those 28 days. This is not static. Your hormones are not at this nice level over the entire course of the month, right? So this is for women of menstruating age. This is what your hormones are doing basically every 28 days. And these fluctuations drive and create our menstrual cycle. The changes in these hormones, though, are also what cause a lot of those symptoms that I talked about. So progesterone especially is causing some of the mood, breast tenderness, PMS, bloating, and then the drop in estrogen is causing also changes in mood, headaches, same things. Basically, if estrogen goes down, you feel worse. If progesterone goes really high, you feel worse. I do want to just mention PCOS briefly when we're talking about women's health, because this does affect a large number of women and a growing population of women. We're not going to talk about particularly any products that I would recommend for PCOS, but I just want you to be aware of it because it is growing in diagnoses. Over 10% of women, so more than 1 in 10 women, are diagnosed with PCOS. So this is a hormonal condition. It's characterized by elevated levels of androgens, which are typically considered like the male hormones, but we all have testosterone in our bodies as well. Women have testosterone, men have estrogen. So PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it's the most common endocrine disorder worldwide. It also involves insulin resistance, weight gain, a lot of bothersome symptoms for women. That said, promoting healthy lifestyle can really help manage the symptoms of PCOS. So a lot of the things that you're going to promote through Trinot, like the daily health system for her, I haven't seen any particular studies on for her. That could be something interesting that we look into in the future. I haven't seen particular studies with PCOS and for her, but that may help. But basically, anything that you can do to help maintain body weight or lose body weight, get to a healthy body weight, be physically active, and dial in your nutrition is going to help with a lot of these PCOS issues. All right, this is one of my favorite graphs because I think it explains so well what's happening to us as we go through perimenopause and into menopause. So on the left here is kind of that cycle I just showed you. Every 28 days, your estrogen, your progesterone are doing their thing, and that's pretty normal. They just go up and down in the cycle. When you get to perimenopause, huge swings up, huge swings down in both estrogen and progesterone. They can be all over the place. And that's why if you go to your doctor to have your hormones measured to tell you if you're in perimenopause, you can get like weird results. You might get a really crazy estrogen level and need to retest or test multiple times to kind of see where you are. Because as you're testing, you might test on this day where you're really crazy high on one thing and low on another. So that's what's happening. But that's what's also driving so many of the symptoms that we experience in perimenopause are these huge fluctuations. Once you pass menopause, which is technically defined as 1 year without a period, then you get down here where your levels basically go flat. You post-menopause, if you're not replacing your hormones, have very, very low estrogen levels, drops to almost nothing from where you were when you were younger. So that in itself can also drive a lot of the symptoms because estrogen does a lot in our bodies. It's not just a reproductive hormone. So here's just a list of common symptoms that women experience in perimenopause and menopause. The most common thing that you hear about are the vasomotor symptoms, right? Like hot flashes, night sweats, but there's also hair and skin changes. There's metabolic changes. I know weight gain, and in particularly around the midsection, increases in visceral fat is a major concern for women in this time. There's sexual dysfunction, vaginal dryness, changes in libido, joint pain, like Tina Joy was just mentioning, the hip pain that, I mean, just changes in joint comfort and muscle pain. So almost like fibromyalgia, women report feeling like their bodies are just in pain. And then a lot of urogenital symptoms as well. So this is just a snapshot, but the list really goes on. Another list of potential symptoms. Now, if you were at convention, Andrea Donsky did a talk on menopause there, which is on Trinant's YouTube channel. And if you haven't seen that, that's a really good talk where she talks about her research and they've identified over 100 symptoms. So this is a small list. I think it's good just to be aware of all of the potential symptoms that can be related to this, because that can help identify, like if a customer comes to you and says, what Tina Joy was saying, well, I'm having this symptom, but I don't think it's related to perimenopause or menopause. Well, you can show them this list or the research and say, actually, that has been identified as a symptom that's associated with this change, and I think these products can help you. So one of the things I thought was interesting in Andrea's talk at convention was that hot flashes were not the number one symptom reported by women. So it's actually fatigue, lack of energy, brain fog, and sleep disturbances. So I think this is just a great chart to show you, kind of to guide how we recommend products to women who are experiencing problems with peri and menopause. If hot flashes are their main thing, great. We know that For Her has been studied and shown to reduce hot flashes. But if it's fatigue, if it's brain fog, if it's sleep, we have a lot of additional solutions. For Her will help with some of those too, but we have the creatine and we have Mojo and we have a lot of other products that can address some of these top symptoms that women are experiencing. So when we think about Trinant products, from my perspective, I'm thinking about which products are going to have the most significant effects on the most bothersome symptoms for people. So like that chart I just showed you, those are the things that the pain points that people are having, right? And so if you can identify products that are really going to help people with their specific pain points, that's where you're going to be able to provide the most value for people. So one of the things I also wanted to touch on is, why do we get these symptoms in menopause and perimenopause? Why does a loss of estrogen cause all of these systemic symptoms like the hot flashes, like urogenital changes, like changes in our musculoskeletal system and pain in our joints and things like that? The reason is that we have estrogen receptors throughout our entire bodies. They're not just in our reproductive organs. And this is both a female and a male. We have estrogen receptors in our heart, we have them in our uterus, we have them in our bones. That's one of the reasons that risk of osteoporosis skyrockets post-menopause, is because estrogen is very protective in bone. So, and brain's the other one. Huge effects in the brain, neuroprotective in the brain. So when your estrogen drops to 0, that's why you can have all of these systemic effects, because estrogen is acting throughout the body in all of these various organs. So just back to this graph. This is one reason that I am pro hormone replacement therapy if you're having really bothersome symptoms that you can't address with something like a natural supplement. I would give For Her a try first as a non-hormonal option. But your quality of life is really important. And if you've tried For Her, maybe that helps with some symptoms, but maybe you're still experiencing symptoms. You have to be your own advocate and you have to talk to your healthcare provider. But hormone replacement therapy is going to take you from this almost nothing line of estrogen and just raise you up to a level that starts to affect all of those organs I just showed you and restore some of the benefits of estrogen. For Her is not going to do that because it's non-estrogenic, which is good. It's good for people who don't want to be adding estrogen to their body, and it's good for people maybe who had hormone receptor positive breast cancer that can't take hormones, for instance. So Estro G100, the key ingredient in For Her, it's not estrogen. It's not going to increase your estrogen levels. So just some things to think about, but hormone replacement therapy is going to take you from this flat line here, if you're postmenopausal, and just bring that level up to help support some of the positive benefits of estrogen. All right, so getting into some of the key Trinot products that can support women's health. We kind of talked about all of the potential symptoms that we can address. So we do have the daily health system. That's Trinot's kind of basic core system that has activate and transform. That's going to be really good for a lot of the metabolic health, cardiovascular health, weight management, blood sugar management aspects of aging and menopause. For Her, we'll talk about in a little more detail as well. That one it's a really good just key recommendation for women over 35. I say I wouldn't necessarily recommend it until someone's having symptoms, because you want to know what symptoms you have so that then you can help tailor a system for those people. So For Her, for women over 35 that start to experience symptoms, creatine, I actually just recorded a pretty in-depth training at headquarters last week for creatine, and that's going to go live on the YouTube channel sometime soon. So I don't want to spend too much time on creatine because you'll have access to that soon, but we can talk about as much of that as you'd like. And then Clear protein obviously is really important as we age to help support that lean mass. And Glow and Glow M. Collagen is important not just for beauty from within, but it also supports your collagen in your tissues, in your muscle, in your joints, in your tendons. So collagen can be important from a structural standpoint to help with aging as well. There we go. Okay. So For Her, this is a product that is for women experiencing symptoms, like I mentioned, of perimenopause and menopause, and it's very simple yet effective. So it has 2 clinically studied ingredients. And for me, I love clinically backed ingredients because you know they work. The studies are there that show what they're going to do for you. So like Tina Joy said, she was surprised that it worked for her. I think that yes, that can happen for a lot of products, but when you have a product that's really well designed with these clinically studied ingredients, we know what it's going to do for the majority of people. So For Her has Estro G100, which is a blend of 3 herbs. They've been used in traditional Chinese and traditional Korean medicine for hundreds and hundreds of years. And they specifically have been used often for women's health. So that 3 herb blend is what's called Estro G100. It's a branded ingredient. And then we also included an ashwagandha extract, also clinically studied. And that one really is going to help with some of the stress related symptoms, the sleep. It's also an immunomodulator, which means it kind of helps your immune system. I don't like to say boost your immune system, but it does support the immune system. So ashwagandha is going to help. It's an adaptogen. What that basically means is it just helps your body kind of adapt where it needs to. And then the estrogen 100, that clinically studied herbal blend that's been shown to relieve the major 12 symptoms of menopause. And like I said, no estrogenic effects in the test, which is really important. Yeah, we'll come back to questions on for her at the end. So daily health system, I really like this one for the metabolic health aspect. 92% of Americans are not considered metabolically healthy. And that means they have one or more issues with regard to blood pressure, visceral fat, cholesterol, BMI. So there's a lot of factors that kind of compose metabolic health. Less than 10% of Americans are at optimal metabolic health. So there is a lot of room for us to help improve people's metabolic health, and the daily health system is for that. We've got Activate, which is really about appetite support and also metabolic health. It does have L-arginine and several extracts. I'm just going to put up here. So it has the metabolic blend, which is lemon verbena, hibiscus flower, and moro blood orange extract. And the blood orange extract and the L-arginine have both been shown to increase endogenous or your own levels of GLP-1. Now, is this going to put you to a GLP-1 level like if you were taking one of the drugs? No. But if you are not on a GLP-1 med, increasing your own production of GLP-1 can really help support your appetite. It makes you more insulin sensitive. It has a lot of positive benefits without the drawbacks of those GLP-1 drugs. So Activate is a great product for metabolic health, weight management, and appetite support. All right. And then Transform. Honestly, you guys, this is one of the reasons I joined the Trinot SAB. Like, I found this product so interesting from a scientific standpoint, and it is so unique and novel in the supplement space. You're not going to find the enzyme that's in here, A-sucrase, that helps convert simple sugars into, essentially, they call it fiber. What it means is it forms these bonds that your body can't break down, and therefore it changes the sugar into something that your body can't break down, so it passes through. Studies on this have shown it reduces the glucose spike and area under the curve, meaning after a meal when your glucose goes up and then it starts to come back down over time. Taking this with a carbohydrate containing meal blunts that response. So you're getting a lower peak and a lower glucose response over time. So this can really help with blood sugar management. Another good thing about this, I don't know if you guys have heard about some of the other supplements for blood sugar, like berberine. If you take berberine on an empty stomach and you don't eat, that can really make your blood sugar drop too low. Transform's not going to do that because it's only acting on sugars that are in the digestive system. So if you don't eat carbs, it's not going to affect your blood sugar. And it's not going to make your blood sugar drop too low. In all of our studies, what we've seen is a decent decrease in the peak and the area under the curve, but nobody's dropping like way below baseline when taking this product. So really good to help with blood sugar control and very unique in this space. If you're promoting daily health system, I would also promote it in the way that's on the sell page or on your website with this daily schedule, because this will really set people up for success in terms of the weight management and appetite management stuff. One thing, again, when I was looking at Trinot before I joined the SAB, I really liked this schedule just in terms of it's exactly what I would recommend someone do that's looking to lose weight or improve their metabolic health, and especially this avoid eating and snacking 3 hours before bed. I think this is one of the easiest things people can do that we don't do to support metabolic health. We've got to stop eating earlier in the evening. It gives, first of all, our bodies don't digest things as well at night. Secondly, we need to be as close to a fasted state when we go to bed as possible so that your body can perform all of those restorative processes that it does while you sleep. You've probably heard of autophagy. You're clearing out debris in your brain. Like a lot of important things are happening while you sleep that don't happen if you're not in a fasted state. All right, so that's the daily health system. I think one of the key recommendations we can have, not just for women, but really any customers, because it's going to do so many important things for metabolic health, which is a concern for most people. Creatine. I mentioned I just recorded a training video on this, and that goes into a lot of detail on the three main ingredients in creatine, what they do, and what the benefits are going to be for this. But just to go over it quickly here, the way I like to describe creatine is that it forms a backup battery in your cells. So really what creatine does, it's part of the phosphocreatine system. If you remember from like high school biology that ATP is the energy source of your cells, right? That's what our cells use for energy, ATP. So if ATP is your battery that's powering all these reactions in your cells, creatine, as phosphocreatine, it helps replenish ATP. So as you're using up a bunch of energy, so you do like a really hard exercise session, or even for your brain, thinking uses up a lot of energy, right? So creatine helps replenish your energy stores when you deplete them quickly. So what does this mean for sports performance? That's why people use it. If you're doing like resistance exercise, it means you can probably get a few extra reps because you're replenishing that energy faster. It means you can run a little bit further and faster. It means you have a little bit more power. And over time, that adds up to increases in muscle mass, increases in strength. For your brain, it's doing the same thing. Have you ever worked, like focused on something really hard for a few hours and then you just feel really tired? Like using your brain uses up a lot of energy. Our brains use 20% of our body's daily energy, even though they're like 2% of our body weight. So it's very energy intensive. Side note, if you have dogs, they say that training your dog, like making your dog use their brain, is a great way to tire them out. So I have very active dogs, and on days that the weather's nasty or I don't want to get outside, I just make them use their brains and do training indoors because that uses up a lot of energy and it makes them tired. So same thing with humans. If we're focusing on something, if we're doing a lot of work, your brain is using a lot of that energy, and taking creatine is going to help you replenish that energy and make your brain work better, have more energy available. All right. We have two other ingredients in alpha GPC that are related and just like have these synergistic effects with creatine. So alpha GPC and sage extract both can help with athletic performance as well, but they also affect the brain. And they do that all through kind of like the same mechanism. So alpha GPC is a source of choline, which is an important precursor for this neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. That's really important for basically making our neurons fire. The sage extract is standardized to rosmarinic acid, which is anti-inflammatory. It's a polyphenol. It has a lot of other benefits besides the reason I think we put it in creatine, which is the sage extract actually helps keep the acetylcholine in your neurotransmitters, in your neuromuscular junctions a little bit longer. So what that means is alpha GPC increases acetylcholine to kind of help your neurons fire better. And then the sage extract helps that acetylcholine act a little bit longer. So these are all synergistic with the creatine that's providing that extra energy. What it means for you, your brain is going to just feel sharper. Your memory is going to be a little bit better. You're going to be able to focus more, and you're going to feel less tired from a focus session than you would if you didn't have the creatine. A few other products that I think are really good for focusing on women's health, and I didn't put many details here, but Clear, either the Clear or the Clear Plus, is just an easy way to add protein to your day. We know most women, especially, are not getting that 20 to 30 grams of recommended protein at breakfast. Breakfast is a meal that a lot of people skimp out on protein. So this is an easy one to add any time of day, whether you want to boost a meal with it, whether you want to use it as a post-workout. Um, we really need to be focusing on hitting those protein targets of 20 to 30 grams per meal, at least 3 times a day. That's going to help keep you satiated. It's going to help maintain and repair your muscle mass, especially if you're exercising. If you're exercising and you're constantly sore, that means you're not getting enough protein. So supplementing with this whey protein, especially after your workout, can help with muscle repair, which, by the way, creatine also helps support muscle repair and can help reduce soreness as well from your workouts, help you recover faster. The collagens, I also just did a social media post on collagen. I don't think they've posted it yet, but that's coming out soon, where I compare bovine collagen and marine collagen. And the short answer is they're both great. They're both going to work. If you are particularly taking collagen for joint support, I would lean more towards the bovine, the original Glow. But if you're taking it for all the other benefits, the marine one is also going to be just as effective. And if you need a marine source, like for instance, you don't consume bovine products, you can take double the dose of the marine and also still get those joint benefits. So a lot of skin health, joint health, tendon strength, and things like that are going to come from the collagen. And hair. I mean, when people tell me collagen doesn't work, I don't know if you guys have heard this one, but a lot of people say, oh, collagen is just like a hyped supplement. If you've ever actually taken collagen, like, you know it works, because your nails get really hard. I start getting all these crazy little baby hairs that are annoying. But it just works. Like, you can see it within about 4 weeks. So I think collagen is a great one for both internal health, but that beauty from within as well. Okay, I will take questions now. I do want to mention I've been horrible at my podcast, but I do have a set of like 13 episodes that's all just basic metabolic health and nutrition stuff. It's called the Nuchi Health Podcast. It's wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. So check that out, especially if you just want some basic information on nutrition and metabolic health. And I'm at Nuchi Health on all the social platforms if you want to follow me.
Thank you so much. That was so good. If you want to end your screen share, then we can start taking some questions. I did see one that I think will be super helpful. We'll get that one answered. Someone asked if they're on a GLP-1 medication, how can the Activate still help them? And so I would love for you to answer that.
Yeah, so it activates not just about the GLP-1, right? It's a benefit, but the metabolic health blend in there, so the blood orange, the hibiscus, and the lemon, those have a lot of effects outside of the appetite, right? So they have thermogenic effects, meaning they're gonna kind of help turn on your body's metabolic rate, boost it a little bit. Let me just grab this. You've got the L-arginine, which increases blood flow, and that has a lot of benefits as well. So increased blood flow to your brain. L-arginine has been shown to lower blood pressure. So if you're on a GLP-1, you're probably getting some of those benefits, but I think Activate is still going to give you some additional benefits for metabolic health and well, mainly just metabolic health and your
Yeah.
appetite. I mean, I don't think you'll have much of an appetite on GLP-1 though.
Right. Well, and I always tell people this, and I know that you'll know this to be true. Anytime that you are on anything synthetic, it then tells your brain we're getting plenty of this particular hormone, which is a synthetic form of the GLP-1 hormone when you're on the medication. And so then your body doesn't produce any of it. And so if you're looking for an exit strategy to come off of those shots, because statistically, two-thirds of the people who come off of those medications will gain all of their weight back and then some. And so if you're looking for an exit strategy, you can start supplementing with the Activate and start naturally increasing your body's own GLP-1 hormone production so that you can come off of those medications and use an all natural supplement. And so it's whether you are or you aren't on the shot, it's still a really good idea for you to be on this because, like Dr. Erin just said, it's going to do other things besides the GLP-1 thing. It's got so many benefits to it.
Yeah, and I think that is a great point. I mean, the coming off of the drug is such a tough problem, and so many people come off of it either for cost or for side effects, and then their body just it's out of whack. It doesn't know how to respond. So I agree. This would be very helpful for somebody in that case as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this one, oh, let me close the door. My granddaughter, hang on one second. Sorry. Okay. So this is such a great question too, because we've seen, and myself included, have had this happen, and I would love to get your input on this. Sometimes when people take Transform, they find themselves very bloated. And so, what I found to be true for me was because Transform converts carbs and sugars into soluble fiber in your gut before it hits your bloodstream, my body wasn't used to getting that much fiber. And so, that was really what was the problem for me because I wasn't getting enough fiber in my diet. So, how would you address that comment when someone says, when I'm taking Transform and it's converting those carbs and sugars into fiber, then I'm getting bloated and feeling a little bit uncomfortable? What would be something that they could do to offset that? For me, it was simple. I was having too much carbs and sugar. And so once I stopped having so much carbs and sugar, then there wasn't as much fiber, things being converted to fiber, and the bloat was gone. I always tell people this too. I just want to be really transparent. You don't want to use a supplement to continue a bad habit. You want to change your habit so that you get long-term results. Being someone that's lost 110 pounds, I always say my biggest accomplishment isn't that I lost the weight. It's that I figured out how to keep it off. And so that was changing habits along the way. But how would you address that concern with Transform?
Yeah, I honestly, I think how you just described it is perfect. I think most of us are not getting enough fiber. That's another like 90% statistic of us are not getting enough fiber in our diets to begin with. So anytime, and you will find certain foods probably cause you bloat more than others, right? Like there's just we all have different gut bacteria, and those gut bacteria are better and worse about digesting certain things. And that's what causes bloating is when those gut bacteria produce products of gas, right?
Yeah.
So I do think also, I would say potentially, so decreasing the amount of carbohydrates in a meal that you take this with, yes. You can also try slowing down. So don't do it. You don't necessarily need to start every day. I know Daily Health System, I believe, is just one Transform a day, right? Or is it two? It's two.
It depends on the person. What I teach people is one with your heaviest carb meal. Because I just know people in general, like you said, if 9 out of 10 people aren't getting enough fiber, then you want to ease them into that and also teach them good habits.
Yeah. So if you were doing two a day, then I would recommend going down to one to start and just kind of taking it more slow. But I think you're exactly right that the problem is if you're having too many carbs, you're getting that transformation in your gut. And there's not, unfortunately, not a lot of ways to avoid that. I know Dr. Tom has been looking at some potential ways maybe we can add something in that helps with that, offset
Mhm.
that side effect. So we're in the process of that as well.
Yeah, yeah. So someone asked if you can take too much collagen. And I wanted to address something you said before you answered that about collagen when you were talking. Like, I've heard the same thing. People say collagen doesn't work. And that just, there's nothing that could be further from the truth. And I'll say this, and I don't say this because I'm a fan of Trinot. because I'm just and just being transparent, it's not like I'm using every single product that we have every single day. That just isn't, I don't. And so I had used a lot of different collagens for a very long time from several different companies, whether they be network marketing companies or store bought. I had never, I'm sure they did something. I'm sure they had some benefit, but I had never had a visible before and after picture type of a result using collagen until I used ours. And so it absolutely does work. And it works on the areas that probably you want them to work most, right? Like for me, it helped with the
Mm.
cellulite on the back of my legs. It helped my hair to grow. Finally, I couldn't get my hair to grow at all. And so really, really, really was helpful. But what would be your answer if you can A, take too much collagen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You
And B,
can is the answer.
yeah.
What's the B part?
And then B, just like being consistent with collagen. That's how you get a result, right? Like I think sometimes people in general aren't consistent long enough with a product for it to actually give you a result. And for me, my pictures of my legs were a year apart. And had I not taken that picture when I first started, I would have had no idea how far I had come in a year just by taking one little tiny shot of it every single night when I brush my teeth.
Hmm. So yeah, the reason you can take too much of it is collagen is an incomplete protein. So it doesn't have adequate levels of all the essential amino acids, kind of like a lot of plant proteins don't. Um, so what can happen, like a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm getting my protein from collagen." You're actually not. It's not a great source of protein in that sense because it's incomplete. So really what you're taking collagen for are all of those benefits we mentioned, but it's not, I wouldn't use it as a protein source. Um, so when I say you can take too much, if somebody is focusing on collagen as like their source of protein, that's when really you can take too much. And there's some potential for it to kind of mess with your tryptophan levels and things like that in your brain if you're taking a ton. I mean, we're talking like probably 50 plus grams a day. So I wouldn't worry about it if you're taking the normal standard serving amount or even 2 servings, but yeah, you can.
And another question is from Christine. She said, for someone taking Synthroid for thyroid issues, do we need to worry about the ashwagandha in the for her?
So I'm not familiar with that medication and I'm not a medical doctor, sorry. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that one. I would say it's a medical question and unfortunately I can't answer those specific medical ones.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. Oh, that's incredible.
I see a
Okay, so
question about collagen in teenagers. I would say, yeah, that's fine. And again, just taking like a single serving a day.
yeah, and then we have somebody said that they've been in menopause surgically since they were 27 and she's 65. Can the for her help after all these years? I think that's a great question.
Yes, 100%. If you're still having symptoms, then for her can certainly help even if you've been in menopause for a long time. And that's another great thing about for her. So you may have heard you don't want to start hormone therapy more than 10 years post menopause because there are some increased risks with doing that. For her is not going to have any of those problems. So no matter what age, how many years post menopause you are, you can take for her, no problem.
Yeah. What I found for me was because someone said that the for her would with the ashwagandha in it would also help with rest at night, take it at night. And so I was taking it in the morning right when I wake up, whenever I drink my hydration product, as soon as I wake up. And so I tried it at night. But what I'll say is this is what happened for me when I took it at night was that my dry eye issue, because I would imagine since the product was in my body and working the most while I was sleeping, I was having issues with my dry eyes again the next day. And so for me, I think you just have to work with your body to figure out when your body best responds, because I have to take the For Her in the morning to help with my dry eye issue. Because when I take it in the morning, my eyes are fine all day. When I was taking it at night, I was struggling with the dry eye issue again all day the next day. So just kind of experiment with your body when things are gonna, what works best for what time for you. Let's see here. I'm not sure if this has been asked. So peeing more frequently when you are on some of the supplements. That is such a great question. What, and I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, and there can be a variety of reasons for that, especially any of the ones that have caffeine. Caffeine is a diuretic, and that's going to make you go to the bathroom more. A lot of them are beverages, so you're just drinking more water. There can be, changes in fluid balance depending on what the product contains. So yes, it is, I would say, normal and not any sort of risk or issue for you to pee more.
Yeah. And then somebody said for teenagers experiencing issues with their periods, would the For Her be beneficial for a teenager?
I don't, we don't have, I would say, data to answer that question. I can check, I can look at if those herbs that are in the estrogen have been used um, in younger women, and maybe if you want to send in a question to product@trinot.com, we could get that answered. Um, I know it hasn't been studied in the clinical studies that I've seen, because it's all been perimenopause and menopausal women.
Yeah.
And
Can
you
or
can
should I
take it.
take the For Her if
Yeah.
they're on hormone replacement therapy?
Yes. Yes, you can. And I would say if you're still having symptoms, if the HRT is taking care of any symptoms that bother you, you might not need For Her. But if you still have any other symptoms that are not being addressed by your HRT, then yes, it's fine to take together. It's not going to change the effects of one or the other.
Yeah. And then somebody had mentioned that someone over 50 was struggling to lose weight using the daily health system. And I'll share just a little bit about that first, and I'll let you tag on because I'm someone who's lost a significant amount of weight. And so the first thing I'll say is you can never out supplement or outwork a bad diet. And so it's all, for me, it always came back to food and what I was consuming and when I was consuming it. I know that Dr. Erin shared briefly about being in a fasted state when you sleep, and a lot of people will wait until the end of the day to eat, and that will put weight on you very quickly. Another thing is being paying attention to your calorie consumption. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how many calories they're drinking in their afternoon cocktails and things like that. I mean, you just simply have to be willing to put some things down for a while if you really want to get healthier. And then what I found through my journey was that I didn't want those things again, because I feel far better having had the 110 pounds off of me than I felt having whatever the snack or the drink was that I thought I just couldn't simply live without. And then also, when are they eating and what are they eating? I mean, for me, it was a very real thing being in pre-diabetic state and insulin resistant. First of all, I had no idea I was either of those things. And so I would highly, highly recommend that you get a continuous glucose monitor, because if 97 million Americans are insulin resistant and pre-diabetic and they're typically unaware, that probably means these people are in that state. And if that means your body isn't responding well to the carbs and sugars that you're giving it. And you cannot burn fat if there is an excess of carbs and sugars in your system. Your body will not get into fat burning mode. And so some of the simplest solutions, if you find somebody struggling, it's not that the supplements don't work for them. It's that their diet, their lifestyle doesn't work for them. And they've got to be willing to adjust some of those things and get those things corrected so that the supplements can do their job. And then the last thing I'll say is you've got to get them on Enrich, because if your gut isn't healthy, you're going to, I want you to think about like an old dirty pipe, right? It's going to, you aren't going to be able to get what you need from a supplement if you don't get the gut cleaned out really, really good, get your microbiome in check. And then once you do that with a good product like Enrich, then your body can actually absorb the nutrients from the good supplements that you're putting in your body. What would you say to that?
Yeah, the other thing I would add, so yes, it gets harder to lose weight as we age. and insulin resistance plays a key role in that. Physical activity is one of the few things that you can do to bypass insulin resistance as you are getting healthier and reducing your level of insulin resistance. So contracting your muscles, it bypasses the insulin receptor and it can get glucose into your cells without insulin. So even if you're insulin resistant, going for a walk after your meals, exercising, all of those things are going to make you more insulin sensitive without the need for the insulin receptor to be working properly. So I think that could really also help with weight loss. Walking is so underrated. It's obviously one of the easiest things to do, and doing it after meals not only improves insulin sensitivity and glucose disposal, but it improves digestion because it gets your digestive system moving. So it can help with any digestive issues also. So that would be my advice, is just to try to add some movement, particularly after meals. And it doesn't have to be walking, air squats, or just walking around your house,
Yeah.
marching in place, those sorts of things.
And that's what I did. I should have mentioned that when I was going through my weight loss journey and how I lost the initial like 80 pounds. I walked my neighborhood because just to be transparent, I didn't want to go to a gym. I was embarrassed. I didn't even know how to use the equipment or anything like that. And so I just started walking my neighborhood. And at first it was 3,000 steps a day. And then it was 5,000. And then it was 7,000. Then I got up to 10,000. And it was amazing how different my body like reacted to everything just from me walking in my neighborhood. And it also was really good for mental clarity too. Just like if you got a lot going on, it's really good just to get out and just to walk and be in the sunshine. So get out and walk. And then Crystal Case says, and this will be the last one we take because I know you got to get to the airport. She's only been taking Enrich at bedtime. That's what she was told to do. And so you definitely should be taking it with your meals because it's going to break down the fats, the carbs, the sugars, and the proteins that you eat. That's what a digestive enzyme does. And so I'm not saying it doesn't have benefits for you to take it without food, but will you just kind of dive into that, Erin, and kind of help her understand how the Enrich works and what it's doing in her body and when she should take it?
Yeah. So, and let me ask this because I'm not as familiar with Enrich as I am with some of these other ones. Is it recommended, I have it somewhere, to take it with every meal, or is it like a heaviest meal 2 times a day? When do you usually take it?
Me
Mm-hmm.
with every meal.
Every meal. Okay. Yeah. So it is digestive enzymes. And what that means, I mean, we have natural digestive enzymes that break down food. If you see the ASE at the end of a word, ACE, that typically means it's an enzyme. So protease breaks down proteins, lipase breaks down fats. So Enrich is a blend of digestive enzymes that helps break down all of the macronutrients in food, carbs, protein, and fat. So yeah, I think taking it at night is not going to hurt you, but you'll definitely get the most benefit taking it with meals because it's going to help you better digest all of the macronutrients that you're eating.
Yeah. And one of the things that you just may not be aware of is that because our food is so highly processed today, and most of us aren't eating a whole food, plant-based diet that has natural enzymes in it that do help us break down foods, we aren't getting the enzymes we need to actually break down the foods that we're eating. Because once you cook food over a certain temperature, you cook out the living enzymes in it that would help your body naturally break it down. And so by using this product before your meals, 1 or 2 capsules, just literally taking it, even sometimes I forget and I take it like, oh shoot, I already started eating. I'll go ahead and take it really quickly. It's just going to help your body break it down. And I've seen someone else talk about like issues with going to the bathroom. It's also going to help get you more regular, no matter which end of the spectrum you're on. If you're going too often or you're not going often enough, getting your gut in check and getting it healthy is really going to help a lot of those bathroom issues that you're experiencing too. So with that, Dr. Erin does have to get to the airport. She is traveling
I
today.
want to answer one more question because I've
Oh,
seen
yeah,
it
go
a few
ahead.
times. All right. So creatine, 3 grams versus 5. And I think I might have addressed this in my product training. So creatine is something that needs to build up in your system for it to work. So it is something you need to be taking every day. And some people preload or do a loading phase where they take 20 grams of creatine for like a week to get you up to kind of that saturated level. The data shows 3 to 5 grams will also get you to that level. It just takes a little bit longer, and that's fine. It also kind of reduces any side effects when you do it that way versus when you take 20 grams at a time, that can be a really high dose, and that can cause a lot of uncomfortable symptoms with high dose creatine. So 3 grams will get you there. If you're somebody who's like very active, or you weigh more, like men, I would say are people who might consider more towards the 5 gram dose. But for most people, 3 grams is going to get you to that saturation level in your muscle and keep you there. So it'll have the benefits of physical and cognitive function.
I love that. If you guys could do me a favor and just let Dr. Erin know in the comments just how grateful you are that she spent this hour with us on a Friday, that would mean the world to her and I both. If you have any questions, just get back in touch with the person that invited you to watch this video. They can get you all the details so that you can get something ordered. If you heard something that Dr. Erin talked about that you're ready to get ordered, or there's testimony group. You can get added to the testimony group simply by just getting back in touch with the person that invited you. They'll add you to the testimony group, and you can see the testimonies of literally hundreds, thousands of people who are getting results using the products that you've heard talked about today. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much, Dr. Erin, for jumping on with us today and spending this hour with us. We certainly appreciate you, and we are wishing you safe travels.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.